Hey guys, so some of you may have seen my last video in which I explained how to make money flipping items on Gumtree, like at least £30 an hour. And I recommend this to any young person that wants to make some side income and doesn't want to get a job. So links to that in the right hand corner, like right up there. So yeah, click that if you watch that first, as this is the follow-up video to that. But if you're just here to learn how to sell for a much higher price on eBay, then this video will explain just that. So here's some of my quick tips that I have used in the past to help me sell for at least 20% above the average price. Number one, use a plant in the background of your photos. Now, before you think I'm stupid and click off this video, hear me out. From my experience, using a plant really adds like this artsy vibe to the post, I guess, and gives it additional perceived value. Especially because I pretty much exclusively flip cameras and lenses. It makes the listing seem more like, oh, fancy, artsy, yada yada yada, right? Number two, set the initial price to be ridiculously high and lower it by a small percentage every few days or so. So for the flip that I mentioned last week, I initially listed the bundle for £1,300, and every few days I just dropped it by around £50. This is because historically that item or like that bundle would generally sell for £1,000 tops, and I ended up selling it for £990. So the whole point of this is not to actually expect your item to sell at that highest price, but rather to sell your item at the highest price that a person is willing to pay. I mean, the gear that I sell for would have at most sold for around £1,000, but I mean, if someone was dumb enough to buy it for 1,300, yay! Number three, look at your competitors' listings of the item that you're trying to sell and pick out certain things that they're doing wrong. Maybe they're missing some pictures from a specific angle, or maybe there's like grammatical errors in their description, or if their description is just too vague, or if their picture's lighting isn't great. All of these things you can really use to make your listing stand out. This will get more clicks and therefore more watchers, and then eBay will naturally push your listing to the top of the search rankings. This is just some like basic search engine optimization that you should probably learn for eBay, but isn't compulsory. But yeah, make sure you don't have any grammatical errors in your description. Now for the biggest piece of advice that I can give you, and this is going to be something I cover in great depth, so listen carefully. And that's going to be about the photos that you use. Good photos will absolutely make or break a listing. If your photos, then there is no way that your listing will sell for like its max potential. So how do you get good photos, you ask? Well, number one, make sure your background is clean. So personally, I just take everything on my table over here. I do a flat lay, and then the background of the table is like this beige color, beige wood. No distractions. I make sure to wipe the table down as well beforehand, just to make sure that it's spotless. Generally, I would use like a flat lay of every item that they're gonna be receiving as the display picture. Number two, try to use all 10 slots of the photos if you can, as generally the more photos you have, like the more detail you can convey to the potential buyer. This will mean that if they file a dispute later on down the line, you'll have more proof to say, look, this is what I showed you in the pictures, like, you know, there's no excuse for returning it, basically. Number three, clean your product beforehand. A quick wipe down will definitely go a long way. Number four, use the best camera possible. I know this is a really obvious tip, but you'll be surprised like how many people get it wrong. So I thought I'd just include that in there anyways. And lastly, and arguably most importantly, have really, really good lighting. Lighting can definitely be used to your advantage, and make sure to not have massive shadows in your photos. Also, dents and wear and tear on your item can be made less significant with good lighting, and I'll show you how in a second. So personally, what I do is I take off my lampshade, right, and I hold the lamp right above my camera like this, so that it doesn't create any shadows. It's a bit of like a ghetto way of doing it, but you know, it is what it is. I don't really have the budget to be wasting on some professional studio lighting at the moment, so yeah, that'll have to do. So, how can you make dents and wear and tear look more insignificant? Well, for example, if there is a dent, right? The dent is shaped like this, like there's a literal ditch in the material of the item. So by shining a light directly above it, this will prevent any shadows from forming on it. So like, you'll be able to see less contours of the dent. This will make it seem like, oh, it's actually not as bad as it is in reality. So technically you are showing the potential buyer like the faults with the product, but you're just kind of exacerbating it a little less. Obviously, I don't edit any of my photos or anything like that, so like everything is actually still raw. I don't put any filters over it or anything. I just use lighting to my advantage. Anyways, now onto the description. For this, I just list everything that the buyer will be receiving once I ship the product, and also I'll give like a brief description of what the product will be and the condition that it will come in. Be selective of your words. Redact any information that like will seriously harm the value of your listing. But it is very, very important that you be completely honest and do not lie at all, because if they were to file a dispute, they could say that you were dishonest with your description, and obviously that can't run. So for example, here's a description that I used for the camera that I flipped last week. Take a read if you want to. So for this listing, I received a couple of questions. Questions like, oh, how long have you owned this camera for? To which I responded, around a month, as I bought it to video my China trip, and now I have no more use for it, which is why I'm selling it. This kinda gave the impression that the camera is only around a month old, but what I failed to mention, this is where like the redacting of information comes in, is like, I bought the camera secondhand, so realistically, I have no idea how old the actual camera is. These little things can really go a long way in terms of boosting the price that your item actually sells for. One thing I never do is I never lie, but I do redact information, as technically I did answer exactly what the person asked, but just, you know, beating around the bush a little bit. I hope this video helped. If you liked it, give this video a like. If you haven't already, go watch my last week's video. It's about flipping stuff on Gumtree and how to negotiate and stuff like that. Next week, I will be covering some tips on how to prepare yourself for university, as the lifestyle change is quite drastic, in my opinion. So yeah, let me know in the comments below if you thought my methods was ethical or had questionable ethics, which they do, admittedly, yeah. And with that, I will see you guys next week. Oh, subscribe if you haven't already, like this video if you haven't already. Yeah, bye guys.